Welcome to the Audrain Automobile Museum and our exhibition, Air-Cooled, Keep It Simple. Now, this is the very last weekend you can see this exhibition. It closes on Sunday, July 13th, and we then have to get ready for our next exhibition. But before we do that, our friend Jay Leno, an air-cooled master.
I like air-cooled, because I'm simple.
Well, yes, that's very true, Jay. And this is something that's all about technology, and technology is something that fascinates you.
Well, you know, the air-cooled concept is really pretty good because antifreeze technically hadn't been invented yet. So water-cooled cars could really only be used safely in the spring and summer and part of the fall. Oh, it got cold in your block would break, and you know. So it was really pretty good. Franklin was one of the leaders. And so much stuff came out of New England. There are so many inventors around here. From early 1800s, about 1850, there are all kinds of guys working on variations of internal combustion. And it was really a fascinating period to be in New England.
And right here, one of the oldest cars in the exhibition is a car manufactured in New England, this Cameron. And this is a fascinating thing as well.
Now, look at the way the valves come in from the side. You see, you wanted to get everything away from the heat, because heat would distort metal and weaken it. So the valves are way out here, everything's way out here, and of course the fins where the air goes around and keeps it cool. But yeah, it's pretty neat.
So it is an amazing thing that people only think of air cooling as something that you find in early cars or in Porsches. But there was this magical moment when air cooling came to mass-produced U.S. cars. I know it's a moment that you and I both love.
1959.
The Corvair. Let's take a look.
Cover of Time magazine.
I love Corvairs.
Yeah, me too.
My first car, of course, as I've told people 1,000 times in this network, was a 63 Corvair Monza convertible. And the first generation Corvair, I think, is absolutely amazing. You and I have discussed often the fact that it just also represents a moment in time when General Motors was being so incredibly adventurous.
Yeah, and big corporations don't like to take chances. You know, the first time they did it was Chrysler with the Airflow. Prior to that, cars looked like Rolls Royces, big, literally like a box against the wind, you know. And this thing was aerodynamic. It looked like the Super Chief, one of those trains, you know, from the Art Deco period. Plus it was Art Deco, and it didn't look like an expensive car to people because it didn't have a big grille and all the imposing, you know. It was a wonderful car, very advanced, but it was not a success. In fact, they had what they call a waterfall grille in the front that was so polarizing to people. The next year, they just stuck a regular grille on it and kept, because underneath the skin, it was just a straight 8, you know, with a radiator in front. But yeah, so you can't build something before its time. So this is a huge chance.
It was a huge risk, but you know what's so interesting about it is the fact that perspective also changes things. The fact that the Corvair was not a success for what it cost General Motors to make a dedicated platform that was shared with no other GM products, and meanwhile Ford and Chrysler were just taking their intermediate cars and shrinking them and making the Valiant and the Falcon and for a lot less money and selling them for the same price at retail as a Corvair. But General Motors stuck with it. And there was a bewildering array of models of Corvair, especially in the early days like this. Yeah. The wagon, the Lakewood wagon, was absolutely amazing.
This is probably the rarest, because to the enthusiasts, people think of the 66, 67, the Monza, the Corsa, the sporty Corvairs. They actually beat Porsche in 1966, SCCA Racing. Don Yanko took 100 Corvairs with his own serial number, much like Carroll Shelby. He got his own serial number from General Motors. He went racing, and he beat Porsche for the championship. Yeah.
And he was banned from the SCCA from the class because the cars are too fast.
I know, isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely astonishing. And it's such an interesting point that these Corvairs were so incredibly capable, you know, anywhere between 80 and 140 horsepower out of these flat six engines, much more power than comparable Porsches that cost half again or twice as much were making at the time.
Right.
And it was positioned first as, you know, sort of a basic family economy car, an anti-Volkswagen.
Right.
But General Motors quickly saw that there was opportunity further up market with the cars, and that's where they moved with them. But you know, not to a great profit.
No, I had the Ram side pickup truck. It had the side, but see, the engine was in the back, so consequently you had a high area in the back. So they put the side door, and the telephone companies bought a bunch of them because they could roll the big spools up the side. But other than that, they weren't much use to people. The best iteration was, again, the Corsa and the Monza. They sold them as
gen.
4 speeds, yeah. Plus, it had to compete against the Mustang. It's amazing, this car was not a success because they only sold 1.8 million.
Which anybody would love to do today.
Well, today, that's right, but Mustang was selling 2 million, 3 million. So it was like considered a failure. And of course, the Ralph Nader book. The interesting thing is they sold more copies of the books than they sold Corvairs. But the problem was, Ralph Nader went after this. He really was after the Volkswagen. That had the gas tank right up here in front, and that was much more dangerous, but it also had swing axles. And when General Motors read about that, what Ralph Nader said about that, he got so incensed, they tried to set him up. They tried to set him up in a sort of, you know, what's the situation, a brothel situation, whatever. They set him up with a woman who was going to then, expose it. And of course, Ralph is like,
they picked exactly the wrong guy to try to set that up, because that was not Ralph at all.
Yeah, so then, why is the world's biggest corporation going after the 28-year-old lawyer? And then it just blew the Corvair was only one chapter in that book, but to this day, people say, one guy said to me, hey, these explode, right? I go, no, they don't explode. No, they blow up. No, they don't blow up. It's not the Hindenburg. It's a car. It was a swing axle, and they get all for it. But people just hear something, and it just goes on and on.
And think that the Corvair was the only car with a swing axle. I mean, the Mercedes 300 SL Gullwing had swing axles.
Right.
But you know what this also illustrates as well in this show is the progression from pure air cooling, like we saw in the Cameron, through air, and then by the time you get to the Corvair, with the power that the cars put out and the amount of heat, oil plays a very big part in the cooling of this car. We see in the last car in this exhibition, a really fast, very high-performing car that uses air, oil, and a bit of water cooling, which leads us also to our preview of our next exhibition coming up, which we'll show you a teaser of right now. But remember, this Sunday, the 13th of July, is your last chance to see this exhibition, Air-Cooled, Keep It Simple. So come to Bellevue Avenue to the Audrain Automobile Museum and see it this weekend. And Jay, let's give them a taste of what's to come. So as you add power, you need to add cooling. And of course, Porsche quite famously went to water-cooled cars. And in our next exhibition at the Audrain Museum, Rennsport, Porsche's transition from race to road, we will see a lot of Porsches, almost all of which are water-cooled. And which highlight the brilliant series of RS cars that Porsche's made.
All right, and they come in every conceivable color here, don't they? Yeah.
The rainbow of RS.
Well, come on down to the museum. You can find out what the minute differences are between each car. And if you're a Porsche guy, it's unbelievable. If you're a spouse, it looks just like the other one. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Rennsport, Porsche's transition from race to road, will be on view in the Audrain Automobile Museum on Bellevue Avenue from July 19th through November 9th. It is a show not to be missed. You'll see the full range and how Porsche brings that race tradition to the people on the street.
And the great thing about the Audrain Museum is constant state of flux. The exhibits change probably more often than almost any other museum I've been to. If you're not a Porsche person, wait a couple of weeks and it'll be something else. But this time, it's Porsche, and I'm sure we'll get to Corvettes and Mustang and every other kind of car. Just watch the calendar.